Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to create a magic portal in my game. Essentially what it's going to do is magically teleport my player from one place to another, and it's going to use a couple of different effects and sounds to make it feel like you're being magically transported. And so yeah, it's a good mixture of a bit of scripting, a little bit of aesthetic design, and a little bit of sound design as well. And you can use it in loads of different ways. You could use it as the core mechanic for your game. You could use it as a puzzle element or just to hide secret areas. So without further ado, let's get started. First thing I need is a portal. So I'm going to head over to the meshes section of my library by clicking on the meshes tab. And I'm just going to search for portal. And we've got 3 different portals which came out in the Strength and Sorcery Battle Pass. I'm going to select the Stone Gate magic portal, but there's a kind of like a twine one there and a magic mirror one. So there's lots of different variety. Let's get this Stone Gate portal, and I'm going to plop it just there. And then let's add an effect to that. So we've added the portal to the game world, and we're now going to look for an effect to add to that portal. I'm going to open the effects tab in the library and search for portal. And you can see that there's a few different portal effects, but the main ones we're going to be using are these 3. Magic Portal Circular Green, Circular Purple, and Ellipse Blue. I'm going to use the Circular Purple, I think, because that will go nicely with these purple runes. You could choose to use a different portal, different effect, whatever you want to do. So I've selected my effect, and now I'm going to click on the portal, and that adds the effect as a child of the portal. That's really useful because now if I want to move this portal around, the effect comes with it. And it also means that I can designate the exact position of the effect because its position will be relative to the portal. So if I put the position as 0 in the x-axis, that puts it right in the middle of the portal. 0 in the y-axis puts it in the middle in this axis here. And let's put it at, it looks a little bit high at 217, like there's a gap underneath. So I'll probably put it at around 187, and that will then put this purple portal effect in the middle of the portal, and it makes it look like it's already on its way to becoming something that you can walk into, and who knows what might happen. So I've done that. The other thing I'd like to do while I'm here is also add a sound, like a magic shimmer. Let's put in a shimmer here. So we've got a few different shimmers. I'll look for the type that works nicely with my game environment. This is a little bit spooky. I feel like this one, it almost has a wind kind of subtone in there. So I'm going to use that. Click on the sound, click on the portal, and you can see that now that's been added as a child of the portal again, so that if I move the portal around or change it in any way, it's going to take the sound with it. And let's just position it in the middle like we did with the other one. So that should be positioned in the same location as that. Yeah, cool. Okay, I've added some effects and some sounds to this portal. Let's give it a quick test and just see what that feels like. So I've arrived in my game world. Let's run over to the portal. Yeah, and that already feels like a magic portal. It feels like I should run into it, but unfortunately nothing happens. And that's where some scripting is going to come in. So until this point, you could probably get away with using basic mode to make that part. But for scripting, we're going to need to use advanced mode. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that when the player enters this bit in the middle, an event gets fired, and it essentially teleports the player to the position of a locator. Now, to get the player to fire an event when a player enters the middle of this portal, you could do something like using the on collision event of the portal itself. But if the player steps on this rock here, then the on collision event will fire. And that might be a little bit too soon. They might not yet have really decided. They could be in sort of this location wondering whether they should step inside or not, and too late, they've already stepped on the rock. So I think what we actually need to do is add a trigger, an invisible area that fires an event when a player or anything enters or exits it. So with our portal selected, let's just get that up again. All right, we're going to go into our primitives tab in our library, and we're going to select trigger. And I'm going to just, again, click on the portal so that it's added as a child of the portal. And again, I can use these numbers to position it correctly. I think it was 187. So we've got our effect, our sound, and this trigger all in the same place in the middle of this portal. I can also change the size of this trigger so that it doesn't, if I position my player, so that if my player's even here they have started entering this trigger, but I'm going to make it so that to enter the trigger, they really have to be in the portal. So let's select the trigger, scroll down in the entity editor over here, and we can change the size of it. I think it's this axis I want to change. I want to make that 50, so it's a bit skinnier. Perfect. And also we should just make sure that if they entered, I don't know, it's the side, slightly to the side of it, that it captures all of that. So let's change the width to 200 and the height to 200 too. There. Okay, so the player will enter that trigger and then it will fire an event. So we need to write a script as well. I'm going to attach the script to the portal rather than the trigger, and then I'm going to hook the event up with this on trigger enter event on the trigger. So clicking on the portal, let's click entity, add script, new script, and this is going to be my teleport teleport script. Okay, so I've named that and pressed OK, and I can see that teleport script has been added to the entity here. So I'm going to click edit this asset, and that will bring up my scripting window. If you're on basic mode, you won't have the option to do that. You will need to use advanced mode to do the scripting. So with this open, what we need to do is essentially write an event or a function which will teleport my player. So we don't need this init function really, so we'll just replace this init. If you wanted to, you could write a function from scratch, but this has already got all the syntax ready to go, so I'm just going to replace the word init with teleport player. And I'm expecting to be passed a player. So when the event fires, it should send through whoever or whatever has entered the portal, and that then goes in this variable here, or this argument. So we're going to be sent something. Now, first thing I need to do is check that the thing we were sent, or the thing that has entered the trigger, is a player. So I can do that by saying if player : is a, spelled exactly like that with a capital I and a capital A, open bracket, character with a capital C, then the code in here only runs if the player argument is of type player. It's really confusing, but hopefully that makes sense. And then end here. So we're going to firstly check that the player that entered, or whatever has entered the trigger, is a player, is of type character. So once we've checked that, we can then teleport them. Now you could do something really fun with, it doesn't necessarily need to be a character. You could throw objects in there using the gravity gun or something, and it could teleport things to another place. I'll leave that kind of mechanic up to you. For me, I'm just going to focus on teleporting the player from one place to the other. So that's a bit of code there that just is a function. It doesn't actually do anything yet. It's a function that is going to teleport the player, and it's going to check that the player is a player, is a character. If it is, then we need somewhere to send it. So let's add a property up here. The name of the property is going to be teleport location. The type is going to be an entity, because we're going to use a locator in the game world. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So the type is an entity, and I could be further specific about what type of entity by doing is equals locator. And now this property will only accept locators. Let's also put a tooltip where to send the player when they enter the portal. A locator to send the player to when they enter the portal. Makes a lot more sense. So if I hover over that, yep, cool. So we've got a property, which we will set in a minute. And let's just finish off writing this function. So if this, when this function is called, hopefully by a trigger, if it was passed a character, then send that character to our teleport location. So we're going to do player set position self.properties.teleport location get position. There we go. So we're going to set the player's position at the teleport's position, at the teleport location's position. And we can even go one further. We can go player set rotation self.properties.teleport location get rotation. Like that. And that's why we use a locator rather than specifying a number. It's also a lot easier to visualize. So we've got our position and rotation, and we're going to set our player in those things. This function isn't called yet, and it doesn't have a locator yet. But the functionality is written now. So this is the crux of it. Now we can go back in here, and let's add a locator. So what's the name of this portal? Let's call this is Magical Portal Stonegate. Let's call it Portal 1. That will then mean I can refer to it easily. And let's add a locator over here. So going in my primitives tab and adding a locator somewhere like there. This locator is going to be called Portal 1 Locator. And that's cool. And so now when I do Portal 1 in my search, in my world tree, even though they're on different voxel meshes, I've got Portal 1 here and Portal 1 Locator here. Ignore that Portal 1. That's a different Portal 1. This is capital P Portal 1 and Portal 1 Locator. So with my Portal 1 selected, I just drag my Portal 1 Locator into teleport location. So that's set that property, teleport location. So the last thing to do is with my Portal 1, let's select Portal 1. The last thing I need to do is to get hold of the trigger, on trigger enter, new binding, and we're going to call the entity Portal 1. We're going to call some function in the script, teleport script, and that pre-fills unless you've got other scripts attached to the portal. And the event I'm going to use is the teleport player. So now when something enters the trigger, it will call this function because I've hooked it up to this on trigger enter event here. And it's specified the entity, the script on the entity, the function in the script on the entity. So hopefully that makes some sense. And then this chunk of code here will run, and it will call this function. This chunk of code runs, and then hopefully we'll see our player moved to that locator. I'm now going to test it. So I've pressed F5 to start testing, and I'm in the game. I'm going to go and run into that portal. And there we go, magically teleported. All my momentum and everything like that stays the same. So where I was walking forward, when I arrive, I'm still moving forward at that pace. And that's kind of cool. That's kind of an accidental effect that's quite nice to have. So I'm going to keep hold of that. So let's stop testing. Now, I don't know about you, but yes, it's cool to be teleported like that, but let's ramp it up a little bit. Let's add a little bit more polish. So firstly, what I'd like to do is let's find that locator again. Portal 1 locator. I'm going to add another portal here so that it looks like we've just come out of this portal. Let's just zero that and zero that rotation so that it's relative to the voxel mesh it's on. Yep, let's also just move it up slightly. Cool. Maybe even across a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so we've added a portal. Let's also add the effect and the shimmer. So portal purple. Just changing the rotation there for some reason. 187. And the shimmer sound. Cool. Okay. So hopefully it'll feel like we've come out of that portal. Let's give that a test. Yeah. Be nice to go back, but we can look at that in a minute. We'll make this portal into a template and then we'll be able to reuse it. Okay, so we're sending our player over there. Let's also play some sounds and effects. So I want a sound to play in the player's, just like in their head, of being teleported. Teleport in, space props. That's a bit too spacey. I feel like more like a whoosh. Something like that. Let's also look for magic. That's very teleporty. I'm going to use that one. Sounds magical. Magic swish 1. So I'm going to add a sound. Now, what I was looking for in the sounds was something that fitted the theme of my game world. So I looked at a spacey teleport sound. It didn't quite fit. I heard a swoosh kind of sound, but it didn't quite fit either. And I've landed on the magic swish, which has got that magical feel. So in my teleport script, I'm going to also play a sound when the player is teleported. So I'm going to need a property to get hold of the sound asset I want to play. And then I need to write a line of code that plays that sound. So the name of the property is going to be teleport sound. The type is going to be sound asset, or one word. And that will do. And I will just magic swish. I will drag that onto teleport sound like that. So now I've set that property as my magic swish 1. And the last part is to just play the sound when the player is teleporting. So let's go player, play sound 2D. I want it to be in both ears at the same time. And I don't want it to be positioned in the game world. I want it to be as if the player is, the character is experiencing it. So play sound at 2D. And the sound asset I want to play is self.properties.teleport sound. Cool. The last thing I could do is add some effects when I land, but I think for now this should just about cover it. So if I walk over to my portal, it would be quite nice also to maybe turn the portal so that it's easy to see where it's going to send you. Yeah, something like that. I think that was perfect. It's very instant. Cool. Okay. Let's try that one more time. Okay, run over to the portal. Double check that that worked and that felt right. Hey, yeah, that's great. Okay, I have made a portal, and if you followed along, you've made a portal too. Now, what would be even cooler to make it something that we can use lots of times is to select that portal, click template, create new template, and let's call it portal. And now, if I click OK, I can find it in my templates section, and I have this portal all ready to go. And whenever I place one, I will also need to find a locator. So remember, I had this portal locator here. Place a locator in order to send the player to that location. And you're laughing, you've got a portal that you can use to teleport around your game world. It's a template, so you don't have to remake it loads of times. And if you want to, you could make it into a package and nicely document it, put it out in the community for other people to use, especially if you've customized what sounds, what effects. Maybe you've done a space themed one or a different theme. Entirely up to you. I hope this has been an interesting and useful tutorial. I look forward to seeing what you do with magical portals and teleporting players around your games, and I can't wait to see your games in Crayta.